Hi everyone, we are back again after a long break, and I hope everyone is staying safe as the numbers rise. Let's take care of ourselves and do our part. Okay, so because of the long weekend, we're going to do a recap of phases 1 to 4, and we're also going to pay more attention to the tricky words in this particular video. So without delaying this anymore, I'll just hand over the camera back to Sue, who will then go through all the tricky words that you will encounter from phase 1 to 5. See you later.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us again. We would like to thank you for joining us, clicking on our YouTube channel or joining us on Facebook. We will have more videos to come. So today we're going to focus entirely on tricky words which are present from phase 2 to 5. But before we get into that, we would like to just do a quick overview on all the phases we have done so far. So phase 1 is entirely on listening to sounds in between words, paying attention to sounds around you, formal instruments, alliteration, and so forth. And I'm sure you put that to good use with your child or your student. Phase 2 to 4 is introduction of all 44 sounds, digraph and trigraphs. And I hope they have learned and picked up all these different sounds, and we're gonna sort of have a quick look back with the 3 steps within phase 4. Okay. I'm gonna start with step 1, which is going through all the phonemes, graphemes, digraphs, and trigraphs. Here's what you should pay attention to. So in step 1, for graphemes and phonemes, ensure that they are able to identify the written sound. So if you look at l, sh, k, they're able to also identify the single sounds, and they can differentiate that it can be made using more than one letter. Okay, and then for digraphs and trigraphs, just understanding that 2 letters can make a single sound, or 3 letters can make a single sound as well. So that's step 1 of phase 4. Now in step 2, I would like you to pay attention to blends and clusters. Initial blends, sounds, and final blend sounds. So if you look at visual number 1, they're able to identify the initial blends, k, sk, as well as final blend sounds, d, as in hand. So that's step 2 of phase 4. And finally, for step 3, here's what you should pay attention to. Being able to blend and segment. So if you look at this visual, they should be able to go v, s, t for vest, or the reverse, segmenting it out, saying vest and then V-E-S-T to spell. So by getting children to write out various words and then sounding them out, you could also have them practice writing, so that would help with the motor skills. Most important, they learn how to connect words to their sounds and how to problem solve on their own. Yeah, so that's a good practice with your child. And here comes tricky words. Now, tricky word is tricky because they're very common words, but unfortunately they're very tricky to spell. And why is that? So it's a very complex spelling pattern makes it tricky, but they are taught these words by sight rather than phonetically, and they're introduced throughout phase 2 to 5. Now, if you look at this example, this is an example of a tricky word and why it belongs to a tricky word. If you look at the word want, okay, the way it is spelled, should it be pronounced won't and spelled want? So therefore, it is quite tricky for your child to learn how want is spelled and pronounced. So these are the words that they learn by sight. And here are an example of the tricky words that they would learn throughout phases 2 to 5. Okay, it's on a segment on its own because you should introduce them within the phases and not all at once. So this would build up their knowledge of these words. So if you look at phase 2, they would learn 19 sounds and then do introduce around 6 tricky words like I, know, the, to, into, go. In phase 3, as you introduce 25 sounds, you will go through all 12 tricky words from we to he. And in phase 4, as you consolidate their phonemes and grapheme knowledge of 44 sounds, you will go through 14 more tricky words. And finally, in the next phase to come, you would add on 9 tricky words or so. So these are the list of tricky words within the phonics framework. Okay, so the idea is for you to focus on the differences between how the words appear and how they're said, and it teaches important skills around reading, writing, speaking, and listening comprehension, understanding of the text or the speech. Yeah. So here are some examples of what you can do with tricky words. So again, teaching words shouldn't be in isolation. You should have fun activities. So for example, if there's a visual, so this is tricky words within phase 2. Okay, you could ask your student or your child to search for letters within the visual, and then once they found the letters, what word would it make? So for example, in this visual, it's in OG letters, and the tricky words most probably it can make is go. Okay, so do find out more information on our YouTube channel, Phonics for Educators. So for today, it's a short session on tricky words within the phonics framework of phases 2 to 5. So next week, we will continue on with phase 5. So in the meantime, to read to your child lots, expose them to as many words and sounds as possible, and we will see you in phase 5. Bye.